And good evening, everybody. Once again, welcome to Going Nuclear, full blown coverage of the land presented by Buzz Sports CLE. I am Ethan Greenberg, along with my usual co host, Madison Delaney. And a special guest here this evening is Alyss. Alyss, you can follow her on Twitter for all of her great sports takes at Alyss, ALYS 216, as it says on the screen. You can follow the program on Twitter at Going Nuclear CLE. Watch us on YouTube, subscribe, etc. So, big show going on here, a really big show. Lots of stuff going on, and since we have a special guest on, let's just go get right to the heart of it. The Guardians, they're having a rough go. Alyss, what is your connection to the Guardians? You go to school in the Cleveland area. You go to Baldwin Wallace. Are you a native Clevelander, or have you lived here there most of your life?
Yeah, I'm a born and raised Clevelander, so I've always loved the Guardians.
Okay, and was that instilled in you from a young age from your parents?
Yeah, definitely all the Cleveland sports, and obviously I've become a Bills fan. But Cleveland baseball has always been really special to me and my family. It was just the sport that interested me the most, so here I am now.
Hey, that's all. I think that it's that that's how it's instilled in me. I was born and raised in Canton. Well, I wasn't born there. I was born in Dayton, but I was too young to remember that. But I was raised in Canton, and always a Cleveland sports fan. And so I get you there. Now you do. I notice on Twitter there is a lot of reference to French, allez gardes.
Oui, allez,
Now,
good.
yeah. Now what? Now that the French influence, where is that from?
I have French ancestry and I am bilingual, so I don't know when that started. I just kind of started at some point last season. It just stuck. Some people would recognize that that was my tweet and everything.
Yeah, that is impressive there. I was thinking maybe you were like French Canadian and, had been transplanted here, or transplanted there in the Cleveland area, but now I know better, and knowing is half the battle, as G.I. Joe once said. Um, we go here. I'm not so much the French speaker. I know a little bit of Hebrew, and maybe we even sprinkle in a little Yiddish here once in a while. I don't know, Madison. What's your bilingualness? Did you study Spanish, French?
No, I mean, I studied French technically in elementary school, but I feel like relatively book smart, but very foreign language stupid. So I have never been good at foreign languages. So I took Latin, so I didn't have to have a speaking exam. And I could just try to as best I could. And I got through it. I had to convince Randolph Macon to start me over at the intro level, but they did it. I had to tell them my Latin in high school consisted of art projects, not actual Latin. And they didn't believe me for a while, but we got there.
Oh, the joys of college, the joys of college. And Alyss, you're at Baldwin Wallace. What is your major there at Baldwin Wallace?
I'm a double major in film studies and creative writing.
Wow, fantastic. Film studies and creative writing. So, would you like to produce movies and when you finish school, or what are your career goals?
Yeah, I definitely like writing more. But I have an internship with Paramount Pictures, so I've been in the marketing side of the film industry right now. So I'd like to ideally climb the ranks there.
Now, it's an interesting time with the writer's strike.
Yeah.
Um, how has that impacted things over at Paramount? Has it impacted anything that you're doing for them?
It hasn't impacted anything I'm doing because I'll promote films like leading up, like about a month before they come out. So I'm currently promoting Transformers, so it's already like written and created like before the strike started.
Wow, wow. I've got Transformers upstairs, but that was back from the original 1980s. And yeah, I can't say that I've seen all the movies. They're good. They look interesting, but I'm still going back to the animated days. Um, Heck, I'm even going back to Voltron. And
Yeah, this latest one is directed by Cleveland native and BW alum Stephen Cable Jr. So the film also has very Cleveland rooted ties.
and
Nice.
Cleveland in general has such a great tie to that Superman. And the connection there to the
And
superhero.
Avengers.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So here's my question to you. If you were writing a script, if you were writing a storyline for your Cleveland Guardians, your 2023 Cleveland Guardians, where would we be in your story? What would you how would your outline, your script have looked?
I don't know, because I'd like to think we're in the first act, and we haven't gotten to like the life changing event that would happen at like the first act, the first third of a film. So I'm hoping that maybe like a certain call up, whether it's Rokio or Bo, it has to be permanent though, will like shake up the lineup and be that like turning point and like, you know, change the direction that the team looks like it's going.
Right. Now, Madison and I have had this long discussion, and we're still scratching our heads. We're still trying to figure it out here. And last week we talked about, well, if you were to cast any blame, if you were to cast blame, do you talk about the front office and the spending? Do you talk about the coaches? It could be the hitting coach or pitching coach or Tito, or is it the players? Do the players need to have their own sense of responsibility to be prepared to face opposing pitchers? Where would you, if you were to play the blame game, where might you put the biggest piece of the pie?
Yeah, I was listening to last week's episode and trying to think about that. I think there's definitely some blame with the front office. I mean, we're not known for spending a lot of money to begin with. But then there's also the idea that the whole Super 2 is the reason we're not bringing Bo up yet because he'd become more expensive in the future. Even though right now it looks like it'd be worth it. But I think and I like Tito, okay, but I think there's a bit of mismanagement when it comes to our bench. We see Tyler Freeman sitting bench forever, and then we hope that when he does suddenly play that he'll actually produce. And if he doesn't, that's not really on him. But then for everyday players, okay, you're playing every day, you're expected to, have that ability. So I think it's really a hodgepodge at this point.
Very well, very well. I was looking at it. We were talking, Madison, I don't know how familiar you are with this. Alyssa, you probably are more familiar, maybe. Don't want to cast aspersions here on anybody, but I was looking at the Dolans and their ownership history with the Indians/Guardians. They bought them for a record, over $300 million back in about 2003. And what I don't get, I love the fact that they are Cleveland. They are based in the Cleveland area, and I read about that and said, "Hey, that's awesome." But at some point, maybe we need to find a better fit. I know we just got a little bit of an influx of cash with this minority owner, but why? My question is this: why can't we have nice things? I'm looking at the rich kids across town who are getting all the best tools for the job and make their life easier. Why are the Guardians having to work twice as hard and having to cobble things together? And I don't know. I'd love your guys' perspective on that. Madison, I mean, you might see it on the recruiting trail when, in college basketball or be able, or however you see it. But when you look over and you see another school, another team with more riches, how do you counter that?
Yeah, I mean it's tough, especially if you don't get like lucky and like the local kid, like landing LeBron in a draft for the Cavs, like someone who has ties to the city already is obviously helpful. Yeah, we definitely can't have nice things in Cleveland. We sold our soul to the devil, one Cavs championship, and we'll never have anything good again. Is the way I view it. But I mean, you do have to find people who like thrive in that underdog role, I guess, because like that's kind of what we are. And it's how the city is, it's how really the state is. And if you're going to represent that, I think you have to have some like will to be the underdog and desire to be the underdog. And that'll kind of help a little bit. But it's still hard if you're not throwing money because people want to get paid. There aren't as many people playing, for the love of the game exactly when you're making, millions and millions of dollars.
Not everyone's going to be like Jose Ramirez.
Yep.
Yeah, he did take a nice little cut, which was much appreciated to stay around.
And the thing is, he didn't need to. He shouldn't have had to. I mean, it's great that he did.
But he should have been paid.
Yeah, I love the guy for it, but he's worth more than that. And the philosophy of basically we are going to grow from within and have our farm system, bring this team along, I think is a bit flawed. I think we got real fortunate in the mid 90s, mid late 90s, early 2000s on those teams to have the likes of people like Albert, formerly Joey Bell, to have Kenny Lofton and Sandy Alomar and Baerga and Nagy, Jim Thome, Manny Ramirez, all those guys. That's an anomaly in my mind. I don't know that other teams are building like that. They just go out and get the free agents they want, and we can't. It's very difficult to compete with that. Now, I guess that last year obviously was pretty much a dream season. I don't know about. I mean, for me, I didn't have high expectations at the outset, and they were playing pretty similarly bad baseball in the early part of last season, and then turned it around. So I guess people are kind of hoping that's the way it goes. Alyssa, what do you see as a difference between this season's team and last season's team, if any, that you can quantify?
I know definitely from a fan perspective, it's difficult this season because last year I don't think any of us were expecting much. And now that we know we've had all, aside from like our catchers and Bell, we've had all of these players on our team last year and we know what they're capable of. And because they're not producing what we know they can, it's really frustrating. I can't pinpoint like what exactly is different because their coaching is the same. And again, the players are the same. So it's really confusing.
It is confounding. Now, did they not? Am I correct in recalling that we do have a different hitting coach?
We got Valleca last season.
Okay.
So I think they might have gotten a new pitching coach at some point, but hitting is the same.
Okay. And I should know these things. I really should. But it just seems like just the other week, Tito comes out and is talking about how, we can't hit certain pitches. And it's like, I'm not a baseball player. I am not a baseball player. We're all seeing the same thing. But then the question is, how do you solve for that? Is it, like if you're a basketball player and you're having trouble at the foul line, what do? You plant yourself on the foul stripe and shoot, just repetition after repetition. When you're getting in the batter's box, is it more so a matter of, it's not that I can't hit a curveball. It's that I'm not tracking it well. I'm not, seeing the pitcher the way I need to see it, because obviously when their arm angle comes out, and that ball comes out of their hand, if they're not tracking it well, they're not going to be able to, swing appropriately, I guess.
I feel like a lot across the board right now might be a lot more mental. Just because like nobody else is hitting, so everybody feels like they need to be the one at the plate to hit, and then there's just that pressure and being focused on that rather than like the next pitch. That's really the only thing that I can come up with.
And it has nothing to do. Are we being haunted by John Adams? I'm of course being totally.
I wish we would give like a tribute to him in some way. I mean, it was nice at the home opener, but I wish we had like a patch or like something on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Madison, you've been to the ball games. I mean, I'm sure you were familiar with John Adams and the story and whatnot, but golly, you look at how he was, coming out there even at the old stadium with nobody in the stands and banging on that drum, and it's just amazing part. It's a piece of the Guardians of the Indians that everybody knows, and um, I haven't been, I'm here in Virginia. I haven't been to a game this season. Watch some. So to not, I don't know, how are they keeping that a part of it? Are they still playing the sound effect, Alyssa?
They were last season. Usually, if there was a runner in scoring position, they would have something come up like on the scoreboard, and they would have like a little graphic of drums playing. But they haven't done it so far this season, which I think is really weird.
It's
Yeah,
like missing a heartbeat for the team, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the year, I was blaming it all on Mustard winning all the races.
I'm a Mustard fan, so
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I didn't, I'm not a not Mustard fan. I'm just saying, like, maybe
all the focus.
maybe it was the karma, catching up to us last year. They had Mustard losing every race. That was tough, but the team was winning, so no need to change that. No need to do that. No, but in all seriousness, uh, so the Guardians sit right now 21 and 28, but are only 4.5 games behind Minnesota for first place and 2 games behind Detroit for second place.
Weird to hear.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's not good, especially considering our last 3 series have been against Chicago, the Mets, and Chicago again, the White Sox, that is. And we've lost 2 out of 3 in each of them, or did we get swept by New York?
We got swept by New York. That was our first. We got swept for the first time.
Yeah, and the day we finally put up runs, we can't manage to hold them. What are the thoughts on obviously the starting pitching has been impacted by injuries, not having Savali, not having Tristan McKenzie has hurt, has definitely hurt. And I like the young guys. I think, Bobby's shown some promise, as has Allen. Not such a big Hunter Gaddis guy, but I don't know. What are your impressions of the pitching staff, starters, and the bullpen?
With the starters, I feel a lot more confident than 2021, just because I felt like, okay, we have 2 starters down. It feels like, we're like throwing it away again, which is what 2021 felt like. But I definitely agree that Allen and Bybee have really stepped up, and they both fit really well in the rotation. Savali just did rehab Tuesday. Morris did yesterday. McKenzie's going right now. So hopefully any of them are back soon, just because I feel like the 4th and 5th spots are not really well defined. I think Bieber, Allen, and Bybee are definites. Cal was very shaky. I would like to maybe see him in like a fireman role. I'm not sure about a starter after yesterday. And then as far as the bullpen goes, I think things are changing with that, because obviously they've thrown Karinchak out in situations he shouldn't have really been in. But like yesterday when we were losing 6-0 and did nothing, we saw Eli Morgan come out for 2 innings, and I'm a big fan of his. So we got to see him, go multi-innings, look good. Sam Hench has looked good again. Nick Sandlin looks great this month. And then Karinchak was in a low leverage situation, so we got to see our bullpen kind of like relax. So I think changes are being made in the bullpen so that players are being put in situations that they're best suited for, like De Los Santos in a high leverage situation the other day. And then starters, I think I'm pretty confident in the starters. It's just a matter of who's going to fit in where once injuries are being recovered from.
So looking at the pitchers, I mean, we've discussed this before the season began, during spring training, and as the season has gone along. We talked about the rule changes the pitch clock and the timing issues it can create for not only the pitcher but also for the hitter getting back into the batter's box, being ready for the next pitch to be delivered. Do you think that has played any role? I know that was something that was put out there early on when there were struggles for Karinchak. Has that played any role in the pitcher struggles for our guys? And likewise, has it created any struggles for the hitters who maybe are creatures of habit and they aren't able to get into the routine? Is that a psychological barrier for them?
I know Clase did admit that he's struggling with the pitch clock. So I don't know if any of the others are, but just haven't been as open about it. I do like to joke that I like when our pitchers get someone on base as long as they get them out, because they'll get an extra 5 seconds. So if they are someone who like takes their time, then they have that extra 5 seconds. But I haven't really thought about it for batters, but that's interesting to think about because, I mean, if they do have like a routine, then definitely that's thrown off.
Well, and what would you do? I mean, if all of a sudden, I don't know, Liz, did you play any sports in high school, or not, so
I
much?
did gymnastics and pole vault.
Well, okay, so that takes athleticism. I am not flexible at all. Pole vault, that requires coordination. I don't have that either. I do not have that. But I mean, if they suddenly put any, more stringent time limitations on what you were doing, Madison, if you had to go to the free throw line and you had a long routine like Carl the Mailman Malone, and they suddenly put that on you, how do you think that would impact your play? Madison, how would it impact things for you?
Yeah, I mean, in basketball, especially, like you're in a rhythm, and a lot of times your routine is to get you into that rhythm. So you're in a good headspace, you're, going up with your shot in rhythm, not, out of sync or anything like that. And if it's something you've probably done your entire life, or you did it once when you were 12, it worked out and you just kept it out of, superstition. It's not an easy thing to change. And like, I feel like maybe the similarities between like hitting, for example, and going up to the free throw line, I feel like a lot of it is mental. Like you really have to lock in and you have to focus, even though, you could go into the batting cage, you could hit every day, you could take as many free throws as you get into a game. It's a different situation. So you have to be kind of locked in, and that helps them do that essentially. I'm assuming I played softball like very, very briefly in a non-competitive situation. So I can't speak on hitting too much, but that would be my best guess from my basketball perspective.
And Alyssa, what about when you were doing pole vault and gymnastics? Were there any time constraints? I know that, I mean, from watching the Olympics, like a floor routine, you have a certain amount of time. Is that correct?
The floor routine itself takes a certain amount of time, about like a minute and a half, but that's like always been set in stone. But as far as like before routines, I was like a very visual person. I'd have to like visualize like what I was going through and do like certain breathing exercises. So if I was like cut down, I'd be like, okay, well now my breathing isn't right, and I haven't fully like gone through the motions that I usually go through in practice. So it would definitely throw me off a bit and take me a while to get used to.
Yeah, I mean, I have openly suggested that they watch the movie Major League. They need to, give Jobu rum. Um, you know, they've got to put the hats on the bats to keep the bats warm. But yeah, I wonder what it's going to take to break out. I mean, we saw it, like we said, we see the game against New York. They explode for 9 runs and end up, coming up on the short end of the stick. But then, a couple days later, they're again struggling to get hits. We got 4 hits yesterday, and
So did Chicago.
yeah, we're having problems with them this year for whatever reason. We had their number last year. We certainly did have their number. So, yeah, tough going, but a long way to go. So out of the players, a list that you've mentioned from the minors, first of all, do you get a chance to go down to Columbus at all or Akron, check out some games there?
I don't, just because I'm in Cleveland, so it's just right there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I understand. I understand. But who do you think, if you, I think a lot of people have been saying, specifically because of the issues with Zanino behind the dish, not being great defensively and not swinging a good stick, and then Cam Gallagher not being much better. That some people have been talking about Bo Naylor coming up being a big, huge thing. If there was one person that you're seeing in the minors at the AA, the AAA level that you think could come up and have an immediate impact, would it be Bo Naylor? Would it be somebody else?
I think either Bo Naylor or Brian Rocchio. With Bo, he's caught for all of our starters, all of our bullpen, because he was up here at the end of last season. He's also, been with Bybee and Allen and Banfield and Gaddis even for a while because of AAA. He just caught for Mackenzie today. So he already has that connection with like all of our players, all of our pitchers, I should say. And because the defensive production hasn't been that great anyway from our current catchers, I mean, there's always like, well, he can't do much worse. But he was known for his defense and developed his bat a lot more last season. And obviously, like any offense would be great. So why not? And then with Rocchio, I know he's still, developing with defense and everything, but we saw what he looked like at third base, which he hadn't played in 3 years when he played there in Chicago. But he's a natural shortstop, and I think we got a little taste of that. And he's batting way over 300 right now, so I think we could use his bat and even his defense.
Well, you talked about the infield, Rocchio, shortstop. Do you think there's going to be a shakeup with Ahmed?
Yeah, I know Andre Nutt recently mentioned on ESPN or ESPN Cleveland that there would be, he hinted that there would be like some sort of shakeup there. I honestly, I don't think they're just going to cut Ahmed or anything. I think they might like platoon him with Rocchio or even Arias. But I think he could be like a DH against lefties when they bench Naylor or something like that.
Right. Now, the other thing that is going to come around, and this goes back to my first point of why can't we have nice things? Shane Bieber is getting to a point where we've got a limited amount of time on him. The clock is ticking. If our window is going to close for winning, are we going to be looking at shipping him out like we did with the likes of Kluber and Cliff Lee before him and Bartolo and Cece? I mean, that's just an amazing list right there of starting pitching that Cleveland has gotten to enjoy. Do you make a move with Shane Bieber at this point, or do you hold on and have a point of, like, if we are not X amount of games within first place or in first place by this point, we need to trade him? And if so, do you leverage that into some bats?
I'd like to see Gavin Williams make his appearance up here first. He's our number 2 prospect. He's had either 4 or 5 starts in AAA so far, which is more than Bybee did. So I'd like to see him first, just so we know fully what our future of starting pitchers looks like, as well as if we have confidence that Savali can stay healthy, because I know that's been a concern for several seasons now. I think if we do end up trading him, we definitely need bats. I know someone mentioned earlier that when the Reds traded Luis Castillo last year to the Mariners, they got 3 of their top 10 prospects. So I don't know if we'd go for prospects or if we'd want like a current bat. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, it's tough in baseball because you've got, I think, compared to the likes of the NBA, and even to an extent maybe the NHL, but like you've got all these people, you have that whole minor league system there, and so you can tap into those prospects, where in the NBA you don't have that as much. So you're like, no, I need someone to come in and play and fill a role. Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what the Guardians do here, what their moves are, and I don't know. It's for me, and Madison, love your thoughts on this as well, and Alyssa's also. But watching the games and seeing the ballpark mostly empty is just it's a little bit deflating. It really is to know that first of all, it's probably the best ticket in town for your money, um, in terms of value, and to not see people out there kind of stinks. Um, and so you wonder, is that which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Are the owners saying we don't have money because they're not getting the gate revenue? Or is the gate revenue bad because we're not spending money? I don't know which it is, but also for the players going out there, and I'm kind of gonna this is something that was said in the football realm by one of Cleveland Brown's newest, Juan Thornhill, talking about the fans and the negativity and the energy you find. How much Madison, when you were playing in front of a crowd or not so many people, did you feed off of the energy um, from the people cheering for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely do feed off of the energy. I feel like Cleveland fans in particular have caught a lot of flack this week across sports. I know in particular, some of the Browns have called out fans for negativity, things like that. And I think it's part of, being a Cleveland fan, right? Is like you hope for the best, but you expect the worst. That's just like how it is. And, I want to kind of go back, I think I mentioned it last week. There's an Angel City NWSL documentary on HBO, and they lead the league in attendance right now. And I mean, they do have a lot of celebrities, that go to their games because they have ownership stakes in it. But the way that they approach it is, I feel like, so different than any other sport, and it's obviously something that's worked. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they have like really great game day ops people. I'm sure that the experience is, a good one. I haven't been in a while. It's definitely been several years since I've been up there, but you got to do something a little bit different to draw in the crowd. Not a 10-cent beer night. Let's not try that again, but like something else that will get the people interested. And it's hard too when you got daytime games. Like, I don't know, like how you expect people that are working to just be able to show up. It's just like a different situation that other sports don't typically have.
Yeah, Alyssa, what are your thoughts? I mean, how has the game day, other than some of the disappointing results, how has the game day experience been this season?
I feel like, and I don't want to be like, oh, it's the weather, because it's Cleveland. Show up for Browns games regardless. I went to a Cavs game in a blizzard, so, but it's been like very, I don't want to say like completely empty. It's definitely better than it has been like 2 years ago, maybe. But it's definitely disheartening to see like how empty it is. I was there one of the games against the Twins, and it was an evening game on a Saturday. Not a lot of people. I was there yesterday for the day game. Also, not a lot of people, but that one's a little more understanding just because it's, a weekday. People are working, kids are still in school. I'll be interesting to see tomorrow and Saturday because there's a bunch of giveaways. There's Dollar Dog Night. There's fireworks both nights. But I just don't think it should take like pretty much bribing. Hey, if you come to the game, we'll give you this. I just feel like we need to show up and support our teams regardless of what they look like.
Yeah, I think that that's the optimal thing. And I guess I'd have to look at attendance numbers, but I don't think we are an anomaly. I think we are right there with other sports cities that when their teams are not playing well, other than football, because of the limited number of home dates, the attendance is poor. Now our friend here, Factory of Sadness for Life, he's got a strong opinion. Go back to the Indians, and like, I don't know. I don't think at this point I'm going to say that's not the deterrent or the reason they're not coming out, because there were plenty of nights at Old Municipal Stadium where they were the Indians and nobody showed up. watching baseball on Baseball with the Tribe on Channel 43. Me and about 5 friends who were in the crowd there. Those were some pretty rough evenings on the lakefront. How do you think they've done integrating the flying G? I'm a fan of the logo. What about you?
I love the name change, and I think it was something that was long overdue. And I do like the rebranding of it. I like the almost 20s styled like font that they'll use like on social media. So I think they've done a good job like in that regard with like the rebranding and how it looks. And I don't think that plays a role in like I don't know, like how the team's playing or how people show up because there were games in September last year. I know I went on like a Saturday in the evening, a Tuesday in the evening, and then I was at like the Twins series. There were a lot of people, especially for that Tuesday one. I was impressed with the turnout for a Tuesday in September. Um, and I don't think the name change really has any effect on it, especially when we went to the playoffs in the first year as the Guards. And I think all the people who were like, I'm going to give up my season tickets or I'm going to stop being a fan because of it, I think it was, all talk and not really committing to that.
Right. I mean, I think it's tough. I think if you don't want to go, that's fine. If that's the hill you want to die on,
Then don't.
it's okay. It really is. And I think that brings me to something that was kind of my next topic. And this is kind of, switching gears a little bit here, but we were talking about Juan Thornhill and the Browns, right? And he's talking about the fans and he doesn't want to hear the negativity. Well, we've all experienced pain, a lot of pain and, and and suffering watching these teams. It hasn't always been the good times. The Browns, especially over the past 20 years, have not been. And I think, Liz, you being born and raised in Cleveland, but even cheering for Buffalo, they've had their hard times as well. It wasn't until, I mean, even when they drafted Josh Allen,
It took a bit.
it took a bit to do that. Now, the fans there show up to games like the Cleveland fans, show up to the Browns games, kind of regardless of how the team is doing. But when your team has suffered and has taken tough losses, it's hard to get up for these things because in the back of your mind, you've been trained, you're worried about taking the loss. But my perspective and where I was going with this, we talked about the name change and so on and so forth, is fans should be able to fan however they want to fan. We may not always agree on it, but it's okay. It's all right if you want to be upset about the team, if you want to be Aaron Goldhammer, if you want to be, on the various profiles that you hear, the differing perspectives from one fan to the next on ESPN Cleveland or wherever you might be getting your sports coverage or just reading about things and reading things on Twitter, it's okay. It really is. It's like,
At the end of the day, we're all rooting for Cleveland baseball. So,
right, exactly. We're rooting for Cleveland baseball, we're rooting for Cleveland football. I mean, Madison, since I hate to always, direct these questions your way, but I mean, what's the sports vibe, in Charlotte, in North Carolina, and fans of the Hornets, fans of the Panthers, are they as is it as polarizing there for their teams, and even the Hurricanes for that matter? Is it as polarizing there as it is here or in
Yeah, the
Ohio?
Canes is still a little fresh. Thank you for bringing that up. No, it's okay. I mean, I feel like the Canes get really good support. I mean, obviously they've played well. They haven't been able to get over that final hump, but the stadium sellout, it's the hardest ticket to get, I think, over probably a Hornets or a Panthers game. The Hornets, I feel like, I mean, they just they left and they came back, and we obviously have some experience with that. And then the Panthers are still, I mean, I know they came in the 90s, but they still feel new, and they kind of straddle the line between North and South Carolina and like who gets real ownership over it. So I don't feel like they have the same sense of loyalty, I guess I would say. And like you have a lot of people who had affiliations, especially in football, other places, mostly in Washington, or, other, teams in that division, because that was the trendy, popular pick when we didn't have team. So yeah, I don't think there's the same sense of loyalty. And, if someone's not doing well, like attendance is not going to be, a positive thing. People aren't going to go to games. And that's why when Cleveland comes to town, I prefer to hop on a cheap ticket and go watch the Cavs and the Browns play when they're down in Charlotte.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. You're right. I, hadn't kind of thought about that or put two and two together. The fact that you don't have an entire generation of fans or past generations that have carried on the tradition, like you have with Cleveland sports, with the Bills, with, so on and so forth. And I wonder too, how about, what do you find, Alyssa, with Columbus Blue Jacket fans?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so the Blue Jackets, they were just riddled with injuries throughout the season, and it was very clear, like very early on the season, that we weren't going to go to the playoffs. But fans continued to sell out every single game, even if we were just going to lose. Like none of our regular starters were playing. So I don't know if it's just because it's just them and the crew, and they don't have an NFL, NBA, or MLB team. But I love Blue Jackets fans, and if I could be down in Columbus, I so would be. But I wish we were able to channel that same energy up here. Like, okay, even if, the season's not going how we planned, we're not, producing what we wanted to, we should still show up and support them.
It is interesting point, I think, to make, because you have so many other options in Cleveland. If someone's not doing well, you can just hop over and spend your money on another team. And like, to your point, that's probably why the Canes do so well here, because in Raleigh, we don't have anybody other than, the Carolina Courage. And other than that, like, we got nobody. We were hoping for the MLS team that Charlotte got, and they do sell out stadium, I think, for the Charlotte FC games, but it is a good point.
I'm excited for us to get an MLS team, and I wasn't the biggest fan of soccer until France in the World Cup, but I hope we can bring our same support once Cleveland gets that team in 2025.
Now, is it not? It's an MLS2 team, correct?
I'm pretty sure it's in the same as FC Cincinnati and the Crew.
Okay, you're all right. I might be completely wrong. I thought that it was going to be the MLS2, which is like the minor league, a step, kind of like how in England you've got the Premier League, and then I don't know what if it's the first division and then the Premier League. I'm not sure. I should know these things, but I'm losing it here. So I apologize for that. But yeah, it's very interesting. And we talked at the outset, we talked about the crowds at the Indians Guardians games in the mid 90s when they first went over to formerly Jacobs Field, now Progressive Field, and were selling out 455 consecutive games. The Browns had left town. And it was a perfect opportunity. There was a lot of money not being spent on going to Browns games that people were like, hey, we'll go over here. We'll go catch the Indians in their new stadium. And this is the thing. This is the place to be. I mean, shoot, I remember friends with their season tickets and going to sit up in the Terrace Club. And I mean, I still love going to the ballpark and always look forward to it whenever I'm in town. And the Cavs, when they're not playing well, they draw, but they don't draw near as well as they do when they're winning. Certainly, it's I don't know if fickle is the right word to use for the fan bases, but yeah, I think that the fans got a fan, and we all want to see a winner, and there's a fine line between you can be realistic. Okay. But I don't think you should give up hope. We all hope they win. Maybe they're going to lose. Maybe they're going to play 2 seasons of football and go 1-31 in 2 seasons. Maybe they're going to lose 100 games in baseball, but we're all hoping they win, or at least that's how I kind of look at it. I'm not going to be delusional and say we're going to win every night, but at the same time, I'm also hoping that they do, and that they put on a good effort out there. So taking a look around the land here, the Cavs. This is kind of Cavs/Browns news. Now, did anybody catch our favorite Browns wide receiver, killer of Baker Mayfield, one Mr. Anthony I can't catch the ball Schwartz, and his comments on Twitter recently, watching the Miami Heat play basketball? We know he's a Florida guy, right?
Yeah.
He basically sent out a tweet suggesting to Donovan Mitchell that he go down to Miami, and that's just a complete foul. That is 7 and 9 bull bleep right there. That guy can take the Greyhound bus and get out of town. We don't need that kind of nonsense trying to tell our players. Would you agree there's some kind of an unwritten rule that you don't tell players in your town to go to another town? What are you doing?
It was so weird with how people were acting as if Mitchell didn't grow up a Mets fan. And like, well, just go to the Knicks then. We know you want to go to the Knicks, but it's even weirder for like another player in the city to do that. Like, you guys are both repping the same city here. Why would you like say something like that?
Exactly. Madison,
Because he's not going to be repping them for long. He's not making the roster this year. No chance.
Yeah. Anthony Schwartz is as good as gone, and that was completely foul for him to say that. And I think that it's different what you're talking about, Donovan Mitchell, and I think it's okay for him to cheer for the Mets.
Oh, 100%.
And that's fine. I have no problem with that. I'm sure
there were other fans that did, though.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and I don't get that. He grew up watching them. It's not like he's rooting for another professional basketball team.
Right.
It's a baseball team. And if Anthony Schwartz wants to support whatever, it's not like he's from this city. So I know everybody used to take offense to LeBron James. You're from the area, and then you're wearing a Yankees hat, or you're being a band. This is all this bandwagon stuff. You're wearing a Yankees hat, you're wearing a Cowboys hat or a jersey or whatever it is, and it was frustrating. And they got on him because he was the kid from Northeast Ohio. How are you not supporting the other teams here, right? So if you're from another city, it's okay to root in other sports, to have them as your favorite team. And I know I'm stepping all over my argument of fan how you want to fan. I do have some rules about how you're going to fan in terms of loyalties, but we'll save that for another show of me being a hypocrite. No, but I saw that, and it blew my mind that you had that going on. And we talk about LeBron and what he brought to the city, and bringing a championship, and watching him play in that series against the Denver Nuggets. He was gassed. Dude put everything he had out on the floor. It reminded me of the 2015 finals when it was him and Matthew Dellavedova leading the way. No Kyrie, no Kevin Love. And for people to give him crap is complete foul. That is completely foul. He had a, mediocre cast around him at best. Anthony Davis, whether it's because he's injured or whatever it is, he shows up half the time, if that. So I people who want to give LeBron crap, I feel like they need to slow their roll there. Dude is, if not the all-time best, is one of the best. Factory of Sadness, he's chiming in. I'm giving him crap, LeBron. So, you can give him crap. That's fine. All right. Let me state that. Give him crap, but he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it. And I think what he has accomplished in the game for 20 years is unbelievable. And the teams he's dragged to the finals, Boobie Gibson is not exactly a first ballot Hall of Famer. Neither is Sasha Pavlovich, for that matter. A list. As a Cavs fan, where do you rank LeBron?
I mean, he's given his everything to all of his teams. I do think he's the GOAT. And not just for what he's done, like in Cleveland. I mean, we watched LeBron the other day go with a triple double, 40 points at 38 years old, trying to drag his team, all by himself. And like you can just tell, like he has, the love for the game that he does, but also that passion for it, and gives it everything.
Yeah, I mean, Madison, you saw the Cavs in good times and in bad, and we've all seen the multiple iterations of LeBron in Cleveland, from when he was drafted as a rookie, and then leaving for Miami, which broke everybody's heart, coming back, getting a championship, and then leaving again. What's it, to you, what's his legacy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think, to be honest, I mean, and as his NBA career has been, I think his legacy is really all his off the court stuff, which, in my opinion, if you say all else equal MJ and LeBron, like, I give the nod to LeBron for all his off the court stuff. Like, he's done, I mean, so much for Akron in particular, but really everywhere he goes, like, he pours into the community at a rate that most, stars would not. I mean, yes, a lot of them give of their time, a lot of them give of their money, but he just does it on a different level. And you can tell that he really like appreciates where he's from, and, trying to help people kind of get to, a better life for people that are having, a life kind of like he had growing up. And so, I mean, I think that's more his legacy than the playing, but obviously the playing is great. He's, the best, in my opinion, purely on basketball. And I am a Carolina fan, so I love MJ, and I don't mean any disrespect to him. I just think LeBron's going to finish top 5 in like almost every statistical category. Like that's not necessarily stuff like MJ was doing. He's just been great on every phase of the game. And, you can knock his mentality. I know that's the hot topic, oh, well, he went and he lost. And you're basically saying to go and lose is better or is worse than to not go at all, which never made any sense to me. A loss is a loss is a loss. And if it happened later, it's worse. That doesn't make sense to me. So I got to go LeBron.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a question here, because this, I don't know, in watching that game, watching Nikola Jokic, he looks like he belongs in a slow break league. Like he's out there with the old dudes like me, in the slow break league. He's got the sad looking tank top on. I mean, it is not a thing of beauty. It is not a thing of beauty. And is anyone else getting that same vibe when they watch him?
It does feel like I had a basketball game today for work, and it is not too dissimilar. The style of some people are built for like old man basketball, and I do think he's one of them. Like it just doesn't look like he'd be any good, but like pulls some shot out of nowhere and it falls every time. And you're just like, okay, sure.
Yeah, it really is amazing. Alyssa, you talked about seeing LeBron and his stat line. Did you see any of the games against Denver?
I didn't.
You didn't? Okay. Yeah. I hadn't had
too late.
Yeah. I can't do West Coast games. They're rough.
It really is. And as I'm getting older, it is definitely getting tougher. Weighing in Factory of Sadness, talking about the LeBron, I will agree. He embellished a little bit. There was some embellishment there. I'm not going to lie. But I think that's throughout the league. So LaFlop, okay. All right. That's a bit harsh, but it's kind of warranted. And then in talking about the different era of the game, talking about Michael Jordan, now you can have no hand checks or as much as you did, the physicality there. 3-point shooting, it is a different era. That it definitely is true. And so let me ask this, because, and this is going to be the dumb question of the day, because I'm just not hip and I'm not cool. Why is it that people refer to championships as getting a chip? Shouldn't they be getting a ship? Anybody here?
All I can think of is when Sir Yacht ran a poll that was, do you pronounce it championship or championship? And I don't know. That's all I can think of.
You gotta love Joey. He was good on Worst Cooks in America. Sorry. Did anyone else watch that, or was that just me?
I didn't, but I did know he was on it.
Yeah. He was an interesting character on Worst Cooks in America. I'd love to find out what his real impressions were of like Anne Burrell. And I don't remember who on his, whether it was Tyler Florence or Bobby Flay, or who was on the season on the opposite side as a celebrity chef. That would be very interesting. Couple other things here. So some of the players, we talked about Juan Thornhill, Zadarius Smith, another new member to the Cleveland Browns, got to talk. And one of the knocks on him was last season that his production, tailed at the end. And he talked about, well, I had a clause in my contract that I didn't get paid unless I suited up, unless I got out in uniform. So do you credit him for going out and gutting it out, but not having the best performance? Or do you feel like the organization was hosing him by having a contract in such a way where it's like, instead of resting and getting back to full strength, you force yourself out there and are, not near the top of your game? Anybody want to weigh in on that? I guess it was a rhetorical question. I don't know, but no, I was just intrigued. And you look back at the Baker Mayfield situation and him forcing his way out there and really hurting himself by continuing to play. Let's say that was all about a money thing. He didn't have anything guaranteed. Would you be upset with either party? Could you blame either party?
I mean, it's just a bonus, right? It's not his actual salary. But he's getting a roster bonus, I think, right? And that's pretty standard goal. It makes me more concerned. I feel like that feels like he has to dress to pick up the bonus. Like, that tells me you're not playing for the right reasons, which is something that's maybe been a little, I mean, not for the right reasons, I don't want to say that, but that's been a bit of a knock on him, right? Is like, he's really focused on the money. And if, his contract's totally guaranteed now. So I don't know if he gets hurt, if he has those same incentives. I mean, not that you ever really want people playing hurt, but if it's a small injury, you want him to gut it out a little bit. And I wonder if that will impact what he does with the Browns this year, especially on a 1-year deal, not wanting to put at risk for a next contract when you're seeking, high dollar amount.
Right. And Factory of Sadness chiming in. They are all focused on the money, and sadly so. But I don't know. They can't all be like Jose. They can't all be like Jose. It all comes full circle now. Talk about Jose and his injury last year and how he could have had surgery and continue to gut it out and play and push through and still did a heck of a job for the Guardians and everything like that. Alyssa, what's going on in the world of Buffalo with Damar Hamlin? What's the latest and greatest out there on that?
I know he was back at the training facility. I don't think he's back in training fully, but it was like completely his decision.
Yeah, I mean, NFL injuries are serious business. And
being in the AFC East and watching what the Dolphins are doing to Tua, I mean, it's scary.
Yeah, it is. I listened to, listen to the arguments and the discussion about all that. I think that uh, the AFC East is going to be very difficult. The AFC North is going to be very difficult. Um, I'd say that probably the South is the weakest, and the West is not far off. I mean, probably LA is leading the way there, and Denver, you don't know what the Sean Payton effect is going to be. Factory of Sadness chiming in, just saying, can't expect them to live off 40 million, need 60 million. Oh, yeah, good times there. That is good times. I guess we shall see what happens here. It'll be a very, very interesting upcoming NFL season, the rest of the Guardian season. So, Alyssa, in watching back at last week's show, you might have been familiarized a little bit. We do a little segment called Yay or Oy Vey here. I've got a topic in hand here, and I'll throw it out there, and you can give me the yay if you're up for it, approve it, or an oy vey, not so much. And today my focus was on sports commentator catchphrases, people in the media, people who you hear constantly on the highlights. So first up in yay or oy vey, we'll come to you first, Alyssa, and then go to Madison. Mike Breen, bang. Yay or oy vey?
I haven't heard that one in a minute. I'm gonna go yay for nostalgia factor.
Okay, Madison. Mike Breen, bang. Yay or
Yeah,
oy vey?
I agree. I think we got that with Kyrie's 3, did we not? I believe.
I believe.
So we'll go yay on that.
Go yay on that. Okay. Now the next one is Michael K for the New York Yankees on a home run call. See ya. Madison first. See ya by Michael K. Yay or oy vey?
I will go oy vey because that feels a little unoriginal.
Yeah, absolutely. Alyssa, what do you think?
Oy vey because it's the Yankees.
Yeah, perfect. that is perfect. If I want to throw in there, I know a guaranteed yay. Tom Hamilton, way back. Are we gonna go yay? I think we can go a round of yays here on that one. Tim Alcorn of the Cavs on a dunk, pow. Jared Allen stuffs it home, pow. We going yay or oy vey on pow, Alyssa?
I'll go yay.
All right, Madison on the pow by Tim Alcorn.
I will also go yay.
Okay, now this is some nostalgia. Don't get to hear this as much. Mostly it's during home run derbies these days. Chris Berman, ESPN, back. Madison, yay or oy vey on the Chris Berman back.
I'll go yay on that because I remember that from my childhood.
There we go. Alyssa, are you familiar with Chris Berman's back?
I don't think I am.
Oh my, you need to watch some old school baseball.
Yeah, it might have. It's been a very long time.
Yeah, we're going to give you a pass on that one. That is all right here. And so the final segment here on the show of Going nuCLEar is we just like to express if something's got us feeling a little angry, something that has us going nuCLEar happening throughout the week. It could be sports related, it could be work related, whatever in your life that is. We have an opportunity to go nuCLEar here. Alyssa, by any chance, has anything got you going nuCLEar this week? Whether it's a topic at work, a topic on Twitter, something of that nature?
I know we were talking about it earlier, but insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So the Guardians making no moves as of right now in their offense is driving me insane.
All right, so that is what has you going nuCLEar. Madison, how about you this week? What's got you going nuCLEar?
Yeah, I will say, I rejoined Orange Theory. I was I went all pre-pandemic, got away from it. I've recently started going again. It's not the cheapest of the gym memberships, and we always have at least a person or two in class that just totally ignores what the coach says and like what the workout is to do crunches. And I just, in my humble opinion, I just think you could probably spend your money better by going to a cheaper, if you need the coach to show up at a gym and all that. Sure, but there's got to be a cheaper alternative to go somewhere else where you can ignore a coach for less money than what you're spending to go to Orange Theory. That's all I'm saying. And I don't think crunches are probably going to get you, and I don't know their goal. It could be anything, but like probably not going to get you to your actual goal compared to what, this science-backed workout is trying to give you. But hey, if you know better, by all means, get those crunches on. Who needs to lift other weights? That would be crazy.
Okay, that's what has you going nuclear. The folks at Orange Theory. Well, all right. First of all, just onto a topic that we covered recently. John Morant, he effed around and found out. Cryptic tweet man, and he got himself a welfare check because people were worried about his cryptic tweets and if he was harming himself. I mean, are you kidding me, dude? People.
Those are seriously concerning posts.
Well,
like
right,
you can't, with how many followers you have, with how public you are, you can't be doing stuff like that.
Exactly. It's a foul thing to do, the cryptic tweets, and to say something like bye or whatever it is to your father and your mother and that's ridiculous. What do you expect? He effed around, then he found out. Now, something that has me that only doesn't have me quite going nuclear level. That's just kind of a, it was interesting that came up. Then we had recently talked about cryptic tweets and how much that bothered me. But recently driving around town is always an adventure. Absolutely always an adventure. Okay. And, first of all, my wife brought up to me and I'm like, you're right. That is awful. You get the person who turns on the turn signal and then slowly gets over into the turn lane and then slowly turns. Get over. Make a move. If there's nobody there, go. Okay. I mean, I understand that if you looked at the math, you're like, how much time did you really save? But it sure feels like a lot longer. If you're in traffic, if you're at a red light, you should be in a passenger vehicle, unless you're driving a Hyundai. No offense to anybody here, but I've driven them and they don't have very good acceleration. But unless you're driving like a Hyundai with no acceleration, you mean to tell me you can't go faster at a green light than a semi truck, than somebody who's hauling equipment? You can't go faster than the school bus, and I got to sit there and I got to ho-hum behind you and then switch back behind the stupid bus because you can't move your tuchus? I mean, come on, man. That is ridiculous.
Downtown drivers are always a different breed.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, but not leastly, the rules of the road do not apply to me. The giant sign that says no U-turn means no U-turn. Like, I'd love it if I could just be, I mean, I want to yell. I seriously want to put down the window and yell at somebody for their inability to follow traffic laws. How hard is it? There is a giant sign that says no U-turn, yet these jabronis are making U-turns and slowing up traffic. I don't get it. I don't get it, people. Is this a society we live in? We live in a society with rules to make things work right, and then you don't want to follow the rules. That, folks, is what has me going nuclear this week. So I thank you for that. Alyssa, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciated all your thoughtful thoughts, your insight on the Guardians and the sports in Cleveland in general. You are welcome back anytime. We'd love to have you on, talk more. Hopefully we can talk some wins. Madison, thank you as always. Always a pleasure. Do a great job. As usual, folks, once again, we are presented by Buzz Sports CLE. Want to thank the founder of Buzz Sports and the person who lets us be on, Craig Fountain. Thank him for that. Follow us all on Twitter. Our Twitter handles are on the screen. Alyssa, do you have anything big to promote? Should we just be following you along and looking for any great Guardians or otherwise tweets?
Yeah, I want to say thank you for having me. if you want to follow me on Twitter, I try to keep everything positive. I try to, create a positive environment when things aren't going so good. And you guys can go see Transformers: Rise of the Beast in theaters June 9th.
Hey, you are
There
good.
you
You're a
go.
natural. You're a natural there. Well, that is fantastic. So folks, also remember, follow the show on Twitter. We are at Going Nuclear CLE. Go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, let your friends know. We have a good time here, and try to get down to the dirty details of what is going on in Cleveland sports and around the world. And that's going to do it for us here this week. Thank you all for tuning in. You've been watching Going Nuclear, full blown coverage of the land.